I had told myself never, ever to leave Uganda, my home country, for work. On a tired Wednesday, you know those days when you're very, very exhausted, lying on my bed, I remember my maid, by then, my house helper coming and running, and she's like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." On top of being tired, I got scared, and then she knocked on my door, and the knocking was so, harsh, and I'm like, "What is it?" She's like, "Easy, easy." I'm like, she came running already, and now she's talking about my son. So after shouting, "Easy, easy," we went running and bumped onto the door, and opening the door was my son laying down there, helpless, body so stiff and stretched. When I looked at his eyes, they were all rolling up, and he looked like he was, that situation when somebody looks like they're about to meet their creator. A form of saliva that was coming over his cheeks. And it was such a devastating situation that I can't explain. And looking at the whole situation, I swear I went numb. I was scared, freaked out, and horrified about the whole situation. I could not believe that was my son lying down, and I could not believe that I was a mother to such a son who was on the floor. I had my son who is now, who was older, but I had never seen that in my whole life. Practically, I froze. My brain stopped working. Anyway, it did not all start from there, and we will come back to that. So in 2012, as a young entrepreneur with a very, very business-related mind, I had to add up some sums of money with Jeff, and I began a studio. I began it alone at first because Jeff had already another job. And as you know, beginner's luck, I really was able to set up this business, and it was very, I would say, successful at that time, because I was very young, and it wasn't just like very successful at once. Of course, I began with baby steps, and after some time, after like a couple of 6 months, this business really was booming. Good clients. I used to do wedding photography, and it was a beginner's luck. I was very, very successful, I would say, at that moment, and that was 2012. In 2013, when Jeff joined me to do this business, it was even better. It was working, literally, it was successful. So until 2015, I remember we had a Disney movie that came into Uganda, and that is Queen of Katwe, and we had a chance of joining the team, and we got some good funds, good money on this project. So we decided to set up another branch, which is in Kamwacha, some suburb in Kampala. And we really, really invested our best in this place. I was really, really looking nice, and it had started also making money. So we had 2 branches, the Chireka and the Kamwacha, which was, they're suburbs in Kampala. So on beginning Kamwacha, that was like 6 months. It was abrupt. The landlord literally came to me one day, and she's like, "I'm changing the charges into dollars every month," which was around $1,000. And in Uganda, that's a whole chunk of money, like every month for a studio setup. So thinking about the business staying there for long, and I reach a time and I can't pay rent, I thought it was wise to close it, because I tried to go into negotiations with the guy, but he could not allow it at some point. But businesses in Kampala, sometimes it gets hard. Someone needs the place, so they will overcharge you so that the other person can come in. That's how life is back home. So we had invested over 40 million shillings in this studio. People who do photography, you know what I mean by that money. To some people that don't do photography or in the media, they don't know that you can actually invest that chunk of money into a place for photography or media business. But we all know how media business is expensive. So we had invested 40 million shillings, which was like $10,000. And Ugandans or Africans, you know what that means. That's really a whole chunk of money. So literally we were down. when we closed this business, because we had no option, we could not pay $1,000 per month in a place. It was not adding up. We could not reach our break even. So it was not practical. So we closed it. After closing it, I would say that was the beginning of the breakdown of Fast Photos Media, because we started to struggle. It was such a struggling moment. And that's when Jeff, we decided that he comes to Dubai and starts to, as another capital. Because as I said at first, I never thought I would go to any country to make money. No. So he came to Dubai, and it was a bit of a struggle, probably for him too when he reached here. So I started struggling single-handedly with Fast Photos Media. And this time when you wake up and you drive a car, but you even don't have rent at home. That reached my point. And it was just, you have workers, you have people to pay, and then there are these people that know you as a successful person. So it kind of gets crazy. People think you're driving, people think you still have money, family members think you have money. So things keep on piling. So, and there was school fees, Jeff was struggling. So at some point it felt like the universe had turned against me. I remember there was I reached a time and I could sleep on a bottle of wine or whiskey, because I could not sleep. I was thinking hard. I'm that kind of person who just wants to get things done. So all I was thinking was how to get it done. And going to another country for money was out of the question. Anyway, we still went on with business. We could do weddings. And when you are, as a photographer, is broke, things just come up. Like you lose the work, the hard drives crash, you can't buy enough equipment. And you know how the business is hard without enough equipment. That was my situation at that time. So I started talking to people about this. I love talking to people because sometimes you meet people that have gone through the same situations. So the situation was getting tough on me. I remember I had a very, very beautiful house I was living in. But I had planned that this house was going to be a happy place for my kids. I'd planned that I was going to decorate it and fill it with lovely things, TVs and everything. But by that time, for like 8 months, my house was empty. All I had was a TV and one sofa set. And that's all I had for 6 months. All the places I thought that would be a dining, that would be this, I didn't have anything. That's the struggle I was going through. And I went and spoke to my sister, who is like my very close friend. And she was like, Charity, it's high time you get to Dubai. I was like, no, I cannot do that. I said, that's out of the question. She said, yes, that's the only option. I said, no, I will never go to Dubai. I'll never go to any country looking for money. I can make it. And I kept on encouraging myself. She said, that's the option. You need to think over it. I went home that night. I remember I always had my bottle of wine, my bottle of whiskey, because I didn't want to reach home and just look at my kids and say, there's nothing, there's no this, there's. And then I thought about it. I was going through a lot. I think even that time my relationship was going through a struggle, a lot, emotionally. And I was thinking about life. I had already gone through a lot in 2011 after the death of my fiancé by that time when I was pregnant. So I thought the universe had opened doors for me when I had a successful business. And here comes another situation of struggling. So I thought about it. I was like, how am I going to leave my kids? I had, another thing I had sworn in to myself was I would never leave my kids. Like literally, even school, I never gave my kids to the buses. I used to drive my kids to school. And I remember I thought about my kids. I thought about my business. This was a brand I was building. I had a big vision. I had an events company in my mind. I had just such a big vision in my mind. So I felt like I was putting it down into the grave, like literally it was coming to a stop. So, but then when I thought about the whole situation that was happening, I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And then this evening comes when my son was going through something that we finally found out it was a seizure. And then on top of all these struggles was my son. At first, I used to take him to the hospital. I was like, oh, this is, every day. But I'll let you know, every time we would go to the hospital, we would spend over $200. That is 700 plus Ugandan shillings. With all that was happening, I think I had taken in enough, and I felt like I literally wanted to burst out. And in my whole life, I always tell myself I need to live a life where I am safe, that my mind is really safe. I never want to go overboard, that I lose my mind completely. But at that point, I felt like I had lost my mind. So there was this time I was living I remember it was off the road, and my son still gets this situation again. He gets a seizure again, because we had found out that he had seizures, and they were telling us he would outgrow it, because, he would outgrow it, but when it used to happen, he would literally go out of the world, like he's gonna die. So this evening, after all the talking to me, Charity, you need to go to Dubai, you need to find a place, you need to find another job, you need to, and I was in the middle of confusion. I think everyone at home knew what I was going through, right from my son, who was 7 years by that time. So it was like at 3 a.m., she knocks on my door slowly. This time she was not in a hurry. And then she was like, it's Israel again. I was like, okay. I went to the door, and my son this time was not on the floor. He was struggling, stretching hands, and the body was stiff. He was biting his teeth, and it was just a moment where I froze in, and I'm like, for this sake, I need to step up. I remember we took him to the car, and I remember my car had issues that time. 3 a.m. in the night, we walked in the dark in a very scary place. In Uganda, it's very easy to get robbed, and thieves are very common back home. Like, it's a common thing. You don't walk in the night just like that. But I don't know where I got the courage. I carried my son, as bad as he was. I remember he was biting his teeth and he was stiff. All I held onto was a word of prayer. I just told God, please save my son. And I remember walking through the dark, and we went to the hospital, and I looked at my son being given that injection that stops the seizure. By that time, I remember I didn't have any money on me. And I called my friend, who gave me 250 shillings, which is like $80. Yeah. And I looked at myself at that time, 4 a.m. in the night. I told these ones to go home, but then they stayed because it was late. I was in the room and I cried with my son, and I just told myself I needed to do something at that time. And that was the time I decided to leave, and that was the time I decided that I actually needed to do something. The business was down. I was never in that place where I didn't have 250,000 shillings or $80. I always knew I had at least $1,000 on my account, at least, like for safety. But that was a time where I felt like I was being useless to my kids. In my whole life, I never wanted my kids to grow up the way I grew up. Growing up looking for this, looking for that, but you can't ask it from anybody. So when I reached a time and I could not even pay my hospital bills for my son, I was like, okay, I need to lower my ego and just do whatever that takes to survive. And on that night, I remember I took my son back when he was okay. He could talk to me a bit. He could just say, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." That's all he could say. And then I carried him at 5 a.m. and I went back. I put him on my bed and I slept. In the morning, I remember I went to my sister's place and I said, "Let's do it." She was like, "Yes." And that was the beginning of me coming to Dubai. And when I told her, she was really, really happy. And we talked to Jeff, who was already here. And then, of course, I sold the car I had, and I didn't close the business because my goal was, one, to make sure I enlarge the business, because I sat down and I wrote down what I wanted. I'm very specific when it comes to planning. I like to plan things. So I wrote two things. I wanted a house and I wanted to enlarge the business. That was my whole mission. And I never thought I would be in Dubai for more than 5 years. So what happened is I sold the car and boom, I came to Dubai. That was 2017 in February. So I arrived in this beautiful city. I remember from the area view, I reached at night. Oh God, I looked at the city. First of all, it was my first time to get on a plane. So it was such a good experience. And I remember looking at this city, thinking of where I had left my kids and what I had come to do. It is one thing that drives me each and every day, even up to now. When I think about my kids and what I have to do, I get in line automatically. So I looked at this beautiful city from the aerial view and it was so beautiful. I mean, I started walking around the city, looking for jobs, applying. I had set a standard on which jobs I should do and how much money I should get. But that is not something that is very common with people that come, especially Africans. I will be specific. They are told a lot of things, like, "Ache, you cannot do this job. Your color, no, you're black, blah, blah, blah." They have a lot of, stereotyping. Because this one did not get the job, so you can't get the job. So what I always do, I always motivate myself. That's my best weapon. So I told myself, no, I'm not going to do that. And thankfully, I met this beautiful lady in the church I was worshiping in, and that's deeper. Wherever you are, I love you. She really guided me. She didn't want you to mention anything like, "I can't do this." She would tell me, "Charity, when I look at you, I see a manager." You know, she called me a manager even before I got the job. She said, "I look at you as a manager." And I started believing in myself. 3 months down the road, I did not get the job. Now, before the 3 months, 1 week to my visa ending, I got a call from this company that I had put down. You know, I write a lot. So I had wrote a company that I wanted. And this company calls me for an interview. And the interview was with COS. It's a clothing line. That's COS. So I did the interview and failed the interview. When I failed, I wrote to them an email. I remember writing to them an email and asking why I had failed. And people thought it was actually weird. People laughed at me. And the lady said, "Oh, sorry, because brands have a way they have ways they consider to get somebody a job. So we are really sorry." I answered them right back. I said, "But everything I saw in the interview was okay. Could you specifically tell me?" And I'll tell you, this was weird. "Could you specifically tell me what exactly, where did I fail?" And then she was like, "Charity, you know what? We will call you if there's any other chance." And she called me. She could not handle the emails that I sent her. And she called me. She said, "Charity, I'm so sorry about you failing the interview. It's not because you were not capable. It's because they were choosing different people. Literally, they wanted people with hijab, and it's a specific brand. I mean, specific people shop there. And then me, I went with my cute dress, and so that's why literally I failed the interview." And then she said, "But don't worry, chances are coming up." I had 1 week, and I remember 3 days to the end of my visa, I received a call from Alshire. Oh, we're arranging an interview from you. The same company that I had said I wanted to work with. And then they invited me for an interview. This time it was with Miss Selfridge. Miss Selfridges, it's a UK brand. And then I went there, but I had 3 days to the end of my visa. My ticket was expiring the next day. By faith, I would say, I would call it faith this time. It was a step of faith. And I extended my ticket until the day the visa ended. The next day, I went into the interview. And I thought this time, because it's the second time, they would literally tell me, the job is there. Guess what? They never told me anything. They said, we will call you back. I was like, oh my God. I still kept the faith. I said, God, if I don't get the job this time, then I don't belong here. They didn't call me. I went back home, and I was half depressed, I would say, even when I was with faith. You know, faith is not just because, you cannot be depressed. No, it's because through that depression, you still can keep the faith on. My visa expired, and I left the country without the job. And in the plane, I remembered whatever that I was going through, wherever I was going to. I mean, whatever I was going back to, the business was down, everything was just still the same. I said, let me go home. I landed at Entebbe Airport. I remember it was like 2 p.m. and landing on Entebbe Airport, I saw my kids, which was very lovely. It was just a good feeling to see them back. And on my way home, I received an email from Jeff. He forwarded the email because I had given 2 emails, his and mine. He forwarded me the email. He said, can you open your email? And I opened, and they had given me the job. I was like, oh my God, is this real? Oh no. Like, I felt like the universe had conspired to everything I ever desired. Because this was a brand I loved, and this was the company I had stated that I had written on the board. Sometimes, life is funny. You need to dream big because you never know what you're dreaming. If you dream small, it's going to come to you, and you're going to wish you dreamt better. In 2 weeks' time, they sent me the visa. I guess God just wanted me to look at my kids before I start working. I had my residence visa done, and I was ready to rock. So I started work. It was such a good experience. And through this work, through my job, I've been able to treat my kids slowly by slowly. You remember Israel's situation. It has come down a bit because of the treatment, because I'm able to make some money and provide for my kids, because they're my most important thing. Like, they're my rock. Like, when I can provide to them what I want, then that's my life, literally. And this is what fulfills my heart. The fact that they can say, Mommy, we want this, and I give them. I don't give them to destroy them, no. I just give them because at the back of my mind, I don't want my kids to go through the life I lived. This has always motivated me. And right now, they're in a place where they can attend to a good school and enjoy life, eat some nice food once in a while, go out. They're literally living a life of, I have my mommy there. I know my son always tells this to the teacher, my mom is in Dubai working for me. And literally, this makes me proud. Jeff is running the business right now. First Photos Media, it's still there. So if you want our services, just go and give us the money. But apart from all that, I have learned a lot through this journey. I have achieved a lot through this journey. Life has taught me. Dubai has taught me. I don't talk about it as a negative place to be in, as stories that we hear. And I just want to share what this journey has made of me. I have learned things, and I have learned these things, and I want to share them to you. One of the things I've learned is when you dream about something and you keep focused on it, it can always come true. When you think of the things you want to achieve, you need to make sure you write them down and be specific. I have learned how to specify my goals, how to write what I want and to chase it, and eventually it is achieved. When I was speaking to Deepa, she always told me, Charity, you were a manager in there. And I swear, I never saw myself as a manager in Dubai. And I would tell Deepa, do you even know what you're talking about? She's like, I see you as a manager. But guess what? Right now, I'm at a place where I'm about to graduate as a professional on a managerial level with the company. And why has this come true? Because I looked at myself as a person who is capable of doing something in that place. So I don't minimize myself. I don't even look at my color when it comes to career. When I'm in Dubai, I don't even remember what color I am because it doesn't matter to me. The dreams matter. And let me tell you something today, you who is watching me, and maybe you're in Dubai, maybe you're in the US, maybe you're in the UK. Sometimes we limit ourselves. You know, when you have the self-limiting beliefs where you say, I cannot do this, where you listen to this one saying, oh, because you're this, you cannot do this. I've seen it disappear out of my face. Right now, I'm in a place where I'm working in one of the biggest brands in the world, and that is DUBAIlSECRETS. I didn't start like that. And it's not easy to get there. People who work there know already. The interviews, the pressure there, everything. It just takes a person who is courageous to reach to that level. Another thing is, when you go to a foreign country, you don't think as you were at home. You start to focus according to the current situation of that place. When I reached here and I looked at whatever that was happening, I was like, I actually can build a career here. The Charity who came to just build a house and invest in the business, it's not the same Charity right now. Charity is thinking bigger. Charity is thinking about other things. Even when I'm not there, trust me, I'll get there. I read the Bible and it says, write your visions and let them be as big as possible so that they can, actually it says it needs to scare our people. That's how it states it. So I have learned to write my vision, to write my goals, and I am specific to them that I want this. One of the instances that I remember is when Topshop closed. When I left Miss Selfridge, I went to Topshop. It's also a UK brand. And when it closed, I remember I told myself I want to only work in Victoria's Secret. If it's not that, then I don't want the company anymore. And there were no jobs at that time in Victoria's Secret. And it was a week to closing the brand. They said there are 4 places in Victoria's Secret. I said, okay, I'll do the interview. And I did the interview with managers, my assistant manager, and guess what? I crushed it. But how? It's not because I'm the best. It's because I believed in myself and I wrote it down that that's what I wanted. Sometimes I sit at work and I'm like, I wish I dreamt actually bigger. So mind what you believe, mind what you dream. Don't just be a mediocre, don't just stay there. Until you step out is when you're going to see actually bigger opportunities. Honey, if you do not step out of your comfort zone, nothing is going to happen. You're still going to cry in there, you're still going to complain, grumble and everything. Until you say, I'm going to do this with all the energy, with all you can, that's when you're going to see better opportunities. They're not going to knock on your door when you're in your comfort zone. Because I cannot explain what I felt when I was leaving my kids. Until now, I haven't overcome that. It still stresses me that I'm not with my kids, that I see them once in a year or even 2 years. But honey, it pays off at the end of the day, because those kids are surviving because of the opportunities I've had. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening to me, and we will continue with the journey about Dubai and everything, but don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next video.